Ladies and gentlemen, Chair of the ANCA-Western Region, Nora Hovsepian.
Thank you, everybody. Distinguished guests, Reverend clergy, honorees, dear friends, and compatriots. As the 2-year anniversary of the 44-day war against Artsakh looms upon us this week, the worldwide Armenian nation is once again in mourning over the senseless loss of life at the hands of the same Azeri aggressor who launched a full-scale invasion on September 13th, but this time into the sovereign territory of the Republic of Armenia. In this short period of time, after more than 5,000 soldiers had been killed during the 2020 war, now hundreds of innocent lives have once again been lost. Thousands of families have once again been displaced from their homes. And towns and villages continue to be targeted as the enemy terrorizes their inhabitants. And to put us in a state of perpetual fear and anxiety, the autocratic regime of Azerbaijan continues to threaten Armenian homeland with wartime rhetoric and provocative troop movements. To honor the memory of those we've lost in the defense of our homeland, to show solidarity with those who defend our borders, and to send a message of strength and love to our compatriots living there, please rise for a moment of silence and reflection. Thank you. I must confess that as we were planning this event and the grassroots conference that we had yesterday, our ANCA-Western Region Board was very apprehensive. We had not had a gala or grassroots conference since 2019 due to the COVID pandemic, and we didn't know what to expect. But we forged ahead, hoping for the best. And while COVID has, for the most part, thankfully subsided, on September 13th, we were faced with a new dilemma. Should we proceed or should we cancel? It seemed counterintuitive to have a gala while Armenia was being invaded, and we feared that our esteemed panelists and honorees from Armenia and Artsakh would have to cancel their plans to travel to Los Angeles. So we asked them, are you still able to come? Should we cancel these events? And I'm so proud and gratified to say that our panelists and honorees all unequivocally and unanimously gave us no option but to proceed, reaffirming that now it is more important than ever not to adopt a victim mentality, not to let the Azeris or anyone else stop us, and not to forego any opportunity to bring our cause to the forefront. On the contrary, they said, now is precisely the time to show strength, resolve, unity, and solidarity. And we are thankful to each of our grassroots panelists from near and far, and each of our honorees for emboldening us with their presence and participation. So while a few people on social media, but never with the courage to say anything in person, have criticized us for holding these events at this difficult time, even calling this gala a prom or a party, we know, and more importantly, you all know, by your presence shown here today, that this was the right thing to do. And for that, we are deeply grateful to every donor and supporter who encouraged us to proceed. On behalf of the ANCA-Western Region Board, I especially want to thank each of our volunteers, our staff, our gala co-chairs Lena Davidian and Christine Magarian, our committee members, and especially our donors, for without your generous support, we would not have been able to accomplish anything that you saw in the Year in Review video, or any of the important work that we continue every single day. Our gracious event sponsors tonight, Mr. and Mrs. Varant and Huri Melkonian, have never shied away. They've never shied away from truly putting their money where their mouth is, providing wisdom and guidance, boosting our confidence, and helping facilitate our initiatives. Thank you, Varant and Huri. Our generous Grassroots Conference event sponsors, Mr. and Mrs. Sarkis and Nora Hovsepian, quietly and humbly support and encourage us every year because they see the results of their efforts, and we are so grateful to them. Thank you. The children of one of our founding members of the ANCA, our beloved Manas Bujikyan, who we lost in the past couple of years, have carried on his legacy by reaching out to continue his mission, and we are so grateful to have you here today. Alice Petrosian, who so ably serves as our amazing Education Committee Chair, continues the dedication and generous example set by her parents, Hagop and Mina Shirvanyan, passing that same legacy onto her children and grandchildren. Thank you, Alice. The Ignatius Foundation shows us each year how important it is to continue the legacy of getting into politics by funding the Walter and Laurel Caribbean Fellowship Program. Thank you to the trustees. We are so grateful for every donation, large and small, because together they add up to fund our initiatives, allow us to hire professional staff, and help us truly amplify our message. And this year, of all years, I'm so proud and so humbled to announce that with all of your generous donations listed in the program, plus a surprise, an additional very generous joint donation from our Global Impact Award honorees, Dr. Eric Israelian and Kim Kardashian, which I must say is the largest single sum we've ever received. We have shattered every fundraising record we ever set for a total of nearly $1.1 million tonight. Thank you, Eric, and thank you to Kim. And so where do we go from here? We cannot afford to be complacent, defeatist, pessimistic, or divided. Our sole salvation will be in our unified front against all enemies based on a plan of national strategy where each component of our nation, from Armenia to Artsakh to the diaspora, plays an integral role. Here, in the largest organized community of the worldwide Armenian diaspora, we represent Armenia and Artsakh's greatest weapon against Azerbaijan and Turkey. It is our community's decades of activism, after all, which has kept the Armenian cause on the U.S. foreign policy agenda and which has led, finally, with the persistent efforts of our dear friend and ally, Congressman Adam Schiff, and many of his colleagues in Congress, to full and unequivocal U.S. government recognition of the Armenian genocide. And we can all be proud of that. And make no mistake, when Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, the number 3 highest official in the land, decides to go to Armenia, especially during wartime, and publicly states that she is leading a congressional delegation to highlight the strong commitment of the United States to security, economic prosperity, and democratic governance in Armenia, we know that our collective voice has not fallen on deaf ears. And we are so grateful to our Congressional Armenian Caucus co-chair, Congresswoman Jackie Spear, a proud daughter of an Armenian family, for facilitating and organizing the Speaker's trip and for ensuring that Armenia's security becomes a priority for the United States. While Speaker Pelosi, for the first time ever, set aside the typical both-sidism which has characterized the U.S. response to attacks on Armenia, and instead articulates recent events as a choice between democracy and autocracy, these affirmations of support for Armenia's security and sovereignty must all be translated into tangible aid to Armenia, coupled with sanctions and enforcement of Section 907 to hold the Azeri and Turkish aggressors accountable. To do this, we must come together. We must pool our resources in a smart and strategic manner and use the evidence of war crimes amassed by experts such as Dr. Arman Tatoyan, who we're so grateful to have with us here today, and who gave us a sobering glimpse at yesterday's grassroots conference into his findings of crimes against humanity by Azeri troops in border towns of Armenia. Or Artsak's Deputy Culture Minister, Lernik Hovanesyan, also here with us today, who showed us at yesterday's grassroots conference how the Azeris are systematically attempting to wipe out any Armenian presence in Artsakh by committing blatant acts of cultural genocide. Or Simon Malakian, also here from Colorado, who showed us yesterday how the Azeris are repeating the destruction of our ancient monuments in Nakhichevan by leveling our churches to the ground and desecrating the graves of our ancestors in Artsakh. But even more importantly, yesterday at Grassroots, we learned from the legal experts led by Dr. Yerishe Giragosyan and assisted by Levon Kevorkian and Karnik Kerkonian, all of whom are with us here tonight, representing the courageous 23-member legal team of Armenia, that all of this evidence can and must be used within the legal framework of international justice to prove that Azerbaijan is a racist regime which engages in state-sponsored Armenophobia, teaching hate to its children, promoting its genocidal intent, and acting upon it with impunity. It is for this reason, as Artsakh's Foreign Minister David Babayan told us yesterday, that under no circumstances can Azerbaijan ever be allowed to rule over Artsakh or Armenians. As Robert F. Kennedy once said, each time a man stands up for an ideal, or acts to improve the lot of others, or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope. And crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current which can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. It is on the shoulders of our generation to save our homeland from the existential threat it now faces and to help it survive and thrive. We must sound the alarm in all circles of public opinion, from the White House to the halls of Congress and state capitals, from local, national, and international media to influencers, educators, and policymakers. It is our job to impress upon them that the pan-Turkic genocidal intent against Armenians, manifested through the Armenian genocide over 100 years ago, continues to this day, and it must be stopped. On a grand scale, we must unite to face this existential threat against the Armenian nation. We must realize that while we live here in the diaspora, where we're not directly suffering the threat of war, every threat to our homeland is a threat to our national existence. We must create a unified and invincible force to fight against this threat. We must come together to formulate a pan-national agenda with voices both from the homeland and the diaspora together to strategize and discuss the most effective ways to counter this threat. We must pool our resources, our professional skills, our people power to go on the offensive in every sector of society, media, government, education, to influence public opinion and public policy in our favor, and to highlight that Azerbaijan and Turkey are the aggressors, that all our people want to do, all they want to do, like all people, is to live in peace on their land, and that we are deserving of the world's attention and assistance. So join us in the trenches, not just today, but every day until victory is achieved. Thank you.